Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by Chris and Ray and Sean. How are y'all doing?
I'm awake.
I'm having one of those days too, man. It's like, hey, I'm still awake. Cool. We're winding down the school year here. My job is going to be insane for the next 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm ready for what little summer I get. It's just tiring. This book, on the other hand, that we read was not tiring. It was very energetic. So let's go ahead and just jump into that. This month, well, let me start off with this. So we, as a group, came up with the idea that how about we each take a month and we pick a book. And I did a quick random draw, and Ray was the first one that came up. And so he chose this month's book, which was Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. I'll go ahead and start with you for your quick general synopsis. I'm assuming since you recommended the book, you enjoyed it.
It was good. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. I talked to other people about it. Everybody I talked to, I try and get to at least listen to it. And I try and steer them more in the audiobook version than the book version, but that's for later. So
yeah. Chris, what about you? Did you enjoy it?
After being badgered for a while to read it because he wouldn't shut up about it, which is usually what happens about books, which is why I'm reading what I'm reading now because of all of you. I listened to it on Audible as well, and I like him. Matthew McConaughey narrates it. I guess we should just get that out there. And it's his memoir
story.
Kinda.
These anecdotes, that kind of thing. And it's very entertaining listening to him because it's his story. So it's almost as if as he's reading the script, he'll get like a memory recall and he'll like giggle or like have a serious moment or whatever. He's very, you gotta wonder if the man's got a little bit of ADHD. Just
a little?
Just the way he reads it, and he broke it up, and he gets really excited and very serious.
Bumper sticker.
Like he's all over the place. I did like listening to his Texas. That was very nice. But I thought it was interesting. It's not one of those tell-all books. You're not going to get any tea on this. He doesn't talk about any woman he's dated up until his wife. So if you were...
No, that's not true. He talks about high school.
Anyway. But it's not a gossip book. Like, it's not one of those celebrity tell-all books where there's, like, juicy stories or anything like that. It's all just basically just from his point of view, his experiences. He doesn't... I don't know. I just thought he lived a very fucked up life up until he moved out of his parents' house.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that.
But it was a different perspective on life, for sure.
Yes. Sean, you had some different thoughts.
Yeah, I was going into it thinking it was like a biography, and I enjoy biographies. This was not a biography. Like, it had snippets of it, which are the only parts of the book I enjoyed. I found the book too preachy. If you're looking for like a self-help book, this might be the way to go, because that's the feeling I was getting. It was him telling you how he did things and how you should maybe look at life, and even the bumper stickers that he kept referring to was like that, and that annoyed the fuck out of me. I did not enjoy the book, and honestly, I'm not a huge Matthew McConaughey fan too. He wrote that all right way too long, and like some of the stuff was interesting. I would have liked to hear more about like some of the stuff he's glossed over, like the movies that he worked on and stuff like that. Like he just, I did this, and then that's it. And then you're like, oh, well, that could have been interesting. And then he would get into his philosophy and wet dreams and stuff like that. And I made it right through the end. But Yeah, if you're into biographies, this probably isn't the book for you. If you're looking at a new way of living your life, then maybe. But yeah.
It is. It does kind of ride that rail where you're right. It's not, and he does say this isn't my biography. It's just got a lot of anecdotes. So you do get some biographical stuff in it, but you're right. He also does share a lot of his philosophy as well. So I agree with you in that if you're looking for a straight one, if you're looking for a straight biography or a straight self-help, this is gonna do either one. You gotta kind of enjoy it for what it is. So, I did enjoy the book. I have to say, a lot of the enjoyment came from him reading it, just because he's so energetic about it. And I agree with Chris in that I could completely see, unless he was reading it and changed things for the printed version as well, it does seem like there were points where he's just like, I just remembered something. It was just like flew into it. So, but who knows? The actual printed copy of the book may be the exact same way. Every person they're reading it going, God, what? Can you focus, please?
Yes.
So, but it's almost like you're having a conversation with the guy. So it's a little more relaxed. It's a little easier to kind of follow. So, like I said, overall I did enjoy the book. I'll probably go back and reread it at some point. But like I said, I did get a lot of it. I will say I do have a different opinion of the man now that I've listened to it. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But so let's go ahead and get into it. So he does, like we said, it is a little biographical in that he does tell these anecdotes about him growing up. And some of the places, because he grew up in Texas, I know where some of these places are and everything. And so as he's describing it, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's definitely not shamming on that. But yes, I agree with you, Chris. There's some of it, and he just, I don't say just kind of pawns it off, but he's just like, that's just how the way I was raised. That was just how things were. And I'm like, no, that was abuse.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were abused as a child.
Yeah. And so a lot of, and at the end of the book, he says, whatever you want to call it, tough abuse, whatever, I call it tough love. So clearly that's what's important is how he feels about it, right? It doesn't matter what the rest of us feel about how he was raised. That's how he takes it. So that's how you got to look at it. But
I wouldn't recommend raising your child that way now.
No. I was telling someone
not unless you end up in jail.
Well, that's the thing. You can tell, the man will be 52 this year, so you can tell the old school way of being raised versus how we raise our own kids, right? It's vastly different. When I was listening to it, I was like, oh my God. So then I told my sister something, she started laughing. Because the opening scene,
he gets your attention right away.
He does. I don't know what I would do if I was 12 and witnessed that. I'm not sure.
Basically watching your parents beat the fuck out of each other almost. And then fuck each other.
On the floor. What do you do with that? How does that not affect you psychologically? I'm starting to think there's something to the wet dreams that he's had later on. I don't know. Maybe there's a correlation there.
Maybe there is a correlation. I didn't think about that. He's also, like you said, he's also just very matter of the fact. He's just like, well, this is how it was. Like Dad said, he's probably gonna go out either in a fight or having sex with Mom, and guess what? That's what happened. It was.
But he loved his parents, and I think that's really great when you come from a very turbulent childhood and you can look back and be like, there was love. Whatever it was, whatever you want to call it, there was love. So,
well, I mean, and he does say that the fact that, he changed his mind on what he wanted to do. And instead of being like, oh, well, that's a stupid idea, or, you're wasting your time and energy, it was like, all right, cool. If that's what you want to do, fine, but you better be damn good at it and put your all into it. And I'm just like, Well, hell, at least that's at least decent. A lot of people who have loving relationships with their family are like, oh no, you're going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, and they kind of project themselves onto their own children, right? Like, you are going to be a little itty bitty version of me, and you're going to have.
You're going to do all the things I wanted to do.
I wanted to, but never could.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible way to raise your children. But his parents, for his all, I liked his. I did and didn't like his mom because
there were, and you know what? I will say, sorry to cut you off. I totally cut you off, but you brought up a point that his mom. He even brings it up. His mom and him had a bit of a rift, and he does say that they drifted apart because of her and her reaction to his fame. But then they did hash it out at some point, so you can tell that he's over whatever fights that they had. But you can tell there was some pain there, and that he actually did fight. He just don't want to talk about it because it's in the past. So
yeah.
I thought it was also interesting in that, he normalized everything that happened to him growing up as a kid. Like that's just how it was. And then when he's in high school, he goes to Australia. And that he's just like, no, this is weird. Like, is everyone here weird? Or like, is it just me? And I love the fact that, because I'll be honest with you, at that point in my life, I would have been like, no, I don't care what I said. Get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he stuck his guns. He on it, and
I love the fact that when he finally went to another family, they all like clapped at him. Man, you made it a long time with those crazy bastards.
I thought that was hilarious
That
too.
was great.
It was amazing, and him to just turn around, you motherfuckers!
You knew.
I laughed pretty hard at that one.
Yeah, I thought the whole time he was telling that part of the story, I was just like, no, this is really weird. This is really weird. So
It's also called unrelenting stubbornness too.
Yeah.
Like, my word is my honor. It's like, well, that's just you being fucking stubborn, and you didn't want to come home and somebody tell you they told you so. That's what that felt like to me. But yeah, that family was very, very odd.
mm-hmm.
One in Australia? Oh,
yeah, it was weird.
That was messed up.
And how he just didn't constantly pass out from only eating lettuce and ketchup.
Thank you. I thought the same thing.
Like, how did he survive? I get that he lost a lot of weight, but like, that a head of iceberg lettuce is like
0 calories.
There's 0 calories and ketchup on top of that. Like, you're just eating water and some sugar.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have to go through everything. And he does talk about how he just kind of like fell into, the role that he's still, which is funny, he's still best known for, from Dazed and Confused.
Good word.
Yeah. But, I thought it was interesting when he was talking about how, he started doing all of these romantic comedies and was getting typecast as that. And for the long time, he's just like, yeah, well, that's fine. I'm bringing in money. I can do what I want. And, it's fine. And then he hit a spot where he's just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm not going to. And he's like, I had a conversation, and it's like, okay, I may not have as much work. And, the fact that, he was, he had a relationship that was, stable enough that he could have a conversation like that. Because, I could definitely see there'd be a lot of people dating celebrities, and they're like, what do you mean you're going to stop acting? I don't understand. So.
But the conversation will be, I'm not going to stop acting. I'm just going to stop acting in this role. And it may hurt for a while to do it.
But I can understand that. Like,
absolutely.
After a while, playing the same thing. Like, there's some actors who have made an entire career out of it. The Rock is one of them, who don't really seem to care to venture outside of that role. Yeah. He's very good at being the action hero.
Keanu Reeves is the same way.
Keanu Reeves is the same way. Although he does play really well when he's like spoofing himself.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Yes, but so does The Rock.
So does The Rock. So there's these actors
John Cena
that have gotten very good and make a career of it, and it doesn't seem to bug them that there's no other range for them. It's just that. And they do. They make a fuck ton of money out of it.
And they're great at it.
And they're really great at it. But I could imagine at some point you're like, but is this all I am? Is this all? And it would get boring. And then wouldn't the audience get bored of seeing you in that role? I'm bored of seeing The Rock. Well, that's the end of the sentence.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say something else. I'm like, no, I'm just bored of seeing him. He's a nice guy. He needs to, chill.
I do think, yeah, maybe cut back a little bit. I still enjoy seeing The Rock, and I still enjoy seeing, his thing. But yeah, it's, and then you get people like Jim Carrey that was like, you're known for, wacky humor, not just like normal humor, like wacky, slapstick, very physical humor. And it's like, no, I want to do serious stuff. And it's like, okay.
He did it really well though. Like, Spotless Mind, Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Something like that.
Anyway.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's it. Thank you. There was some fantastic scenes in that from him, and even 23. It was a messed up movie, but it was nice to see him outside of his norm. So.
And Man on the Moon.
Yeah, and Man on the Moon was, man, that screwed him up though.
Well, and then Martin Freeman said that he hates it when actors do method. He's like, it's bullshit. It's like between action and cut, obviously use yourself in that role. But once that's done, snap back, buddy. Like,
and you know what? McConaughey said the same thing. He's like, no, he's like, I've got to get in this person's head, and I'm going to be that person. But then he's also like, but then when it's done, I'm done. Like, I'm not the dude, all the freaking time. So
I love the part that he brings up, because one of his first roles after being the whole, okay, I don't want to do romantic comedies anymore. He's doing Reign of Fire, and he shaves his head, and he's I'm gonna run barefoot in the desert. I'm gonna.
Oh my, yes, that was hilarious.
Stand at the end of the barn roof, and I want to make sure my heartbeat is 60 beats per minute, because that's what that guy did, and I didn't do any of that. Because
I forgot he was in that movie, honestly.
Oh, working with Christian Bale would have been punishment enough.
Oh my God, yeah, that man.
That would have been, sure.
But yeah, it just goes like he tried, and
I appreciate that he tried.
I appreciate it's funny though, because you have to do some preparation for roles like that. You got to get in a certain kind of physical shape, and there's a headspace you sort of have to kind of get into.
Spanish, maybe.
Pardon?
Learn Spanish.
Oh my God, yes, I forgot about that one. That was another fantastic story.
How do you pull that off of going into a Spanish movie and not understanding a lick of Spanish? That.
And then can I have 20 minutes just to kind of look over this?
Yeah. But he said he learned from it. And he's like, yep, never going to do that again. I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
So, but no, and then he talks about just growing older and like you said, Sean, he does inject a lot of his personal theory as to how he think you should live your life, or at least an idea of ways to do it. His ideologies I can't necessarily fault. It's like, all right, well, yeah, don't be a dick. That's what it boils down to. And there was a line in there though, that I thought was really interesting, and I know it has hit me because of everything that's happened to me this last year. And he made the comment that you don't ever become a man truly become a man until your father passes, because then you no longer have that person to ask those questions on. And that hit me, because I was just like, yeah, I kind of feel that a little bit, because now it's like, okay, well, if there's trouble with a car or whatever, I mean, yeah, I could ask some other people. I could ask you, Ray, or whatever, but it's like, I don't immediately pick up my phone and call my dad anymore and ask him, hey, listen, it's doing this. What do you think it is, or whatever? And So when that part kind of hit me, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I feel you on that one, dude. So, but I'm trying to think if there were any other standout thing. The thing in Australia just like just cracked me up. The whole thing about them, the last day being like, I can't believe we made it that long. So,
I liked his little dabble into the acting thing. I'm glad that it wasn't all about acting. It was interesting to hear some of the stories there. But yeah, I'm trying to think of any other standouts right now, and for me, it was just him telling stories. Like I have a neighbor who kind of sounds like Matthew McConaughey a little bit, especially when he tells the stories.
See, and I didn't get that. I don't think.
Especially when he tells the stories. But anyway, it's because he goes on a bit of a rant. It's kind of funny.
He looks like Will Wheaton.
He does. It doesn't match.
It's uncanny.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't match.
No.
So it's entertaining that way. But yeah, it's.
I liked how he talked about his wife. I liked how
that was a cool story.
He just sort of, because you see him and he's got this like natural kind of swagger to him. Like he's got this natural air of confidence about him. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain specific type of person who'd be able to be like, okay, I see you're not a big deal kind of person, kind of knock him down a little bit, kind of humble him a little bit. And we're picking a Brazilian supermodel to knock him down a little bit and be like, yeah, I see you. You're nothing special. But when they were together and he asked her, what do I have to do to lose you? And she, didn't even look at him, took a drink. She goes, well, that's easy. She said, change. And you could tell, and he was like, ooh. He made that sound like, like, that's my woman. Like, that's the woman for me. It was like, I didn't, and that's a beautiful thing. Like when you're in a relationship and you're just loved for who you are. That's kind of the ultimate, right? Yeah. Like the person just loves you as is, and the only way you could ruin is if you change and become this different person. So, and then now they have 3 kids.
Yeah.
But that was the other thing too. She kept handing him ultrasounds. It's like, how long are you waiting? Why did it take so long to tell him you're pregnant? Was he not there? Was he on location that you couldn't?
Which wouldn't have been because
she went with him. She went with him on most of them, and so did the kids, especially later on. They're like, no, like, all right, we're going to be shooting here for a couple months. All right, cool, pack up. The whole family's going. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yes, yeah. I like how she laid it out for him. Like, if we are going to do this, we are going to do it this way, and there is no compromise on this. If you want this life, this is what's going to have to happen. Because I think a lot of people, we've sort of had secondhand experience on this with his sister dating an actor, is that you're just, the family's not sort of the component part. You go away on location. Your family is at home. Yeah. And you're supposed to sort of endure those months apart.
However long it is, yeah.
However long it is. And so for her to be like, okay, but we're coming with you. Like, this isn't, I'm not having these children to raise them by myself. We're doing this as a family. Yeah. I liked her more after this book. I don't know anything about her, but I like her more.
Overall, I like I said, and I mentioned this kind of at the beginning, I definitely have a little bit more of a different opinion. When I had first heard that University of Texas had hired him as a teacher, now granted teaching acting and stuff, I thought, okay, well, I get it. He's from Texas. He lives here. It's a big name. It's, oh, hey, look who we have teaching the acting classes. I'm just like, okay, I understand you'll have to do what you have to do to get people to come to the university. After listening to this book, though, I'm like, no, I think attending his class would be, number one, interesting as all hell. But number two, it might actually be like pretty beneficial because I don't think he would hold anything back. He would literally be like, yeah, and going back to what we were talking about the method acting, I'm sure he probably stands in front of that class and goes, yeah, that's bullshit. Do not do that. Don't do that to people.
Getting the mindset. You can be the character, but that's not you.
So. Yes.
Yeah. There was one takeaway for me that I enjoyed because it's a good question to ask yourself sometimes. He was talking to his friend about getting his jeans pressed and this, that, and the other, and she's like, "Do you want your jeans pressed?" And he had to think about that, and I was like, do I really want to have my jeans pressed? And no, I don't. So just because you have success doesn't mean you're getting what you want out of it. So you got to make sure
you have to be a certain way.
Yeah, you have to be a certain way. You have to take certain things, and it doesn't have to be. He lived in a fucking trailer for for how long, right?
Yeah.
He was just touring around in a trailer. He didn't have to live the high life that way, which was kind of cool. So
Yeah, I thought that was another interesting story. Is just just went around with like
yeah,
Seeing
just did what I did.
the part that I liked, all that, how to live your life and all that to me is just total bullshit. I don't really care about that. I like the stories. But even the stories, so I like the down-to-earth ones where he is touring around in the trailer.
Yeah.
When he goes to that bar and, like, meets all those, like, normal people, that was a great story. Or when he's golfing with his brother and the dog, I just busted a gut laughing.
Oh my God, that was
pretended
hilarious.
to be blind, and the guys didn't notice that his brother got out of the driver's seat.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Love
But then when he has, like, his other story where he, like, picks up and goes to the Amazon or picks up and goes to Africa. Okay, now you're getting pretty unrelatable, and I don't want to listen to this crap.
Yeah.
that became unrelatable for sure.
Yeah. That also is very.
What dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like.
I was just like, wow, I don't want to know
Wasn't prepared
that
for that
about
one.
you. I could have gone my whole life and been happy not knowing that Matthew McConaughey had like 3 wet dreams as an adult. Because I didn't think that was a thing. I thought that was like a puberty thing, and then it was done, and it made me worry a little for him that maybe he's having that as an adult. But yeah, I agree with Sean. Like those ones, I don't think that added anything to the story other than making him seem like really woo-woo. And also that he had the money to drop everything and go off to the Amazon and Africa.
There's one exception that I'll say, because I agree with you. Those stories I didn't relate to.
Yeah.
There's one exception, and that was the one where he went to interject into a disagreement that two of his.
Oh, in Africa, yeah.
In Africa, there was 2 guys having a disagreement, and the guy that he was agreeing with said no.
No,
it's
the guy.
Not, the guy that he was agreeing with said no. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about, do you understand? And I'm glad he took that away from that conversation, because that's a really important challenge, right? Where it's like, no, we can disagree on things. It's about, do you understand the other person and what they're trying to say? So I did like that part.
Yeah, that was a good part, but yeah.
But yeah, I'm going off to Amazon doing that. I'm like, cool, good on you. I wish I'd be able to do it.
Yeah. You can't drop everything and go off to the Amazon.
Yeah. Check you later.
Yeah.
Well, was there anything else in the book you wanted to bring up, or anything else that kind of stood out? Like I said, overall, I did enjoy the book, and I will probably definitely listen to it again. I'm glad you recommended it. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and anyone that I've mentioned it to, like today, I was like, oh man, I forgot I got a show tonight, and they're like, well, what are you using? And I'm like, oh, we're reviewing Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey, and they're, everyone's, oh, well, how was that? And I got on, I don't know, 2 or 3 conversations about it today. So, but yeah, everyone, I've talked to seemed at least kind of interested. I don't know whether or not they'll read it or not, but So I'm like you, Ray. It's like if you're gonna do it, listen to it. Like let the man tell his own story. So, but well, final thoughts, Ray.
Again, take it for what it is. It's just him. He says it right off the top, right? This isn't his rules or anything like that. This is just the way he likes to live his life, and this is just the way that he likes to. You don't have to take anything away from it if you don't want to, and if you do, good on you. But enjoy it for what it is. It's just an entertaining story from his own perspective.
Chris?
Yeah, much the same. Yeah, like it's not a biography. It's not a salacious celebrity gossip thing. It's just a guy who's been writing in a journal since he was 15 and just sort of decided, at 50 that maybe this might be a cool little collection of stories and probably fun for him to look back on his life and remember things that maybe he'd forgotten about and stuff. And he's an interesting guy. I mean, how could you not be with the career that he's had, right? But I do agree with Sean. I would have liked to know more about the films, because I did read some stuff about Dazed and Confused. I was like, oh, I wish he would have talked more about that. But
well, see, that could be a second book. Like, he could just write a second book on. So here are the movies I was in, and here's some of the interesting things.
Yeah, he could do a sequel. But he seems like an all around good guy, and it sounds like he's got people around him that keep him relatively in this plane of existence. Like, he's got a good wife, he's got a good mom now.
No, yeah.
Although I did like when he was like, after 8 years, I loosened the reins and said, fuck it. Like, go ahead, have at it, like, whatever. But he seems like a guy who's got a lot of stories, lived a lot of life. And again, like, I didn't take it. There wasn't anything in there that was like, oh my God, like, I'm just changing my life.
Yeah.
He's got a really great way of using hindsight to reconcile his past.
Yes.
So he can look back and be like, all these things. He's one of those people, like, all these things had to happen for a reason. It was all.
It made him who he is now.
It made him who he is. So he's really good at, like, looking back and being like, it was all good, and having a good outlook on life like that. So that was interesting as somebody who's not like that at all. Very interesting to read from that kind of perspective. And yeah, it's very entertaining if you listen to the book and you like listening to Matthew McConaughey. I think that's the other thing too, is you actually have to like Matthew McConaughey to want to sit down and listen to him. But,
yeah, Sean.
Yeah. If I didn't like the celebrity or had no interest, I wouldn't want.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Well, Sean, final thoughts?
Well, it was no hail to the chin, but it depends on what you're in the mood for. First, you have to like McConaughey a lot, and then it depends on the type of book you're looking for. Don't go into this thinking it's a biography. That, just like I said at first, and I think that was one of my problems. I was looking forward to learning more about his life, and I learned stuff I didn't want to know, and the stuff that I did enjoy, there just wasn't enough of it. So I got through it. I got my credit back.
Well, like I said, I've kind of already wrapped up my feelings on it. So let's go ahead and move on to let's talk about our next book. So like I said at the beginning of the show, we did a kind of a random draw as to the next several books, and everyone's going to, because normally what we would do is I put out there, hey, any ideas for this next book, and we usually throw out 2 or 3 books and do a quick vote and go on from there. And we're like, no, let's just pull an order and everyone pick a book. And if you don't want to read it, fine. But this way we can just kind of throw things out there. So next month is Jennifer's book, and it is The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. And I'm really looking forward to this one because it's Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman. And I can only imagine how raunchy this thing is going to be. Because she does not hold back, and neither does he. After that is Chris's book, and she has picked, so this is going to be for July, is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And yes, this is the book that the current Netflix series is based on. August is Sean's pick, and he picked Project Hail Mary. Andy Weir has actually written several short stories since The Martian, but this is his actual second book. I'm going to tell you right now, I read it, and it was fantastic. So there's a little sneak for, August. And then September, I'm picking books, and I'm doing a classic. We're finally going to dig into a little bit of Stephen King with what I think is honestly one of his best books. And it was also, I think, his second book he ever wrote, and that is Salem's Lot. To get us ready for the Halloween season. So let's move on into other things that we've been reading. Would anyone like to go first?
Sure, but I got one quick question.
Sure.
When are you going to find you naked on the bongos and in your own trailer getting arrested? Because that's...
I forgot. Oh my God.
I forgot about that too.
That wasn't in a trailer. That was in a trailer.
He was in a house.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that
Yeah.
dude.
Anyway.
Oh god, I totally forgot about that.
I've been listening to Sean's pick for the second time in a few weeks. Yeah. And then I've been re-listening to Greenlights and re-listening to Harry Potter because I can't listen to Greenlights all the time. Or not, sorry, Hail Mary. So Project Hail Mary is definitely...
I think that's going to be a long episode with a lot of gushing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, no, I won't even say that. All right, so
I was going to say one spoiler. I didn't like when there was a certain point in that story. I was like, oh, I'm not going to like the story anymore. But then it redeems itself. So.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I was the same way. I was like, okay, I was expecting the Martian part 2, and that's not what I'm getting. And then it kept going, and I was like, no, I actually really like this.
That part or
my part? No, you haven't.
Oh, okay.
It became a lot less Martian and a lot more Bob.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Chris, what else have you been reading?
So I've been reading Hail Mary. I'm on chapter 10. And I like it. I mean, it's really hard to remember.
Yeah.
No, it's really hard to remember that this isn't a Bob book because of Ray Porter.
Yes.
The gem. And I really like his narration. He's very good. He's up there with Jim Dale for me in terms of narration, who narrates the Harry Potter books. And I just finished The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I have come to the conclusion that I don't like reading Old English books. I like watching the movies, but I don't like reading them because they're very boring.
Fair enough.
He turned to me so many times. She's like, oh, it's not even done yet. She closes the book, puts it down.
I finished it the other night, and I threw it, and I was like, that's how it ends. It was so unsatisfying. It was stupid. But anyway.
So it was like watching a 1970s science fiction movie. It's like that's it? Like everyone dies. Yeah, that was it.
But I read it. And
Thanks, Philip.
It was a free book, so, you know. And then because I got mad at that book, I went back into my smut stash, and now I'm reading a smut book because I need to cleanse myself of that. Oh, I can't do it's character-driven books. I have a really hard time with.
I need a shirt with a bookcase that clearly has a bunch of these Bodice Ripper novels on it, and it just says smut stash. That is fantastic. I know 5 librarians would buy that right now.
Shirt idea. But yeah, so I'm reading that, and it's the third in the series, the Demonica series by Larissa Ione. And I stayed up till midnight, I think.
Yeah.
30 reading it, and I'll do it again tonight.
I was passed out, so.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what I've been reading.
Gotcha. Sean, have you been reading anything else?
Yeah, so I whipped through Project Hail Mary and absolutely loved it. And then I started Level 5 by William Ledbetter. It's a science fiction about AIs. Level 5 is the top artificial intelligence and how they kind of get out. There's nanotechnology and all that. So far, it's really, really good. There is at least one more after Level 6. The problem I'm having right now, though, is it's read by McLeod Andrews, who is a great narrator, but I just finished Steelheart series, also read by him. So now I'm realizing, man, these characters all sound the same. I'm getting a little bit lost. I should have picked something else with a different narrator. Mm-hmm. And it's just, he uses the same voice from a previous series in this one, and it's it just takes me right out of the story, which sucks because the story is good. But yeah, I'm about halfway through it. I'm really enjoying it. I'll probably get the Level 6 when I'm done.
Good deal. I actually started. I also read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, immediately started it up again and re-listened to it a second time just because I was like, okay, I know I missed a lot of stuff in there. I got to go back. I actually started going back and re-listening to. I got through the first 2 books of the Magic 2.0 series, and then for whatever reason, I just decided, you know what? We talked about last month. We read several of these free, books on Audible. Let me just see what else is out there, and I just started dumping things into my library. And yes, I do read things at double speed. So things that I cleared were The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I've never read that book, and I know it's a horror book, but by today's standards, it's just
it's Old English horror, which is quite different. I've read it a couple times too.
Yeah. But I mean, I still enjoy it. It's one of those things, like, I've actually got several other classics in there as well. Like, I know, Chris, you did not like Dracula. I freaking love Dracula. But, like, I've got Frankenstein on my list. I haven't gone through it yet. But I'm just like, a lot of these classics, are free on here. And I'm just like, then hell, I might as well just, tear through them. So I read that. I read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's only like an hour and a half. Like, it's very, very short. And the main reason I wanted to read it is because it is referenced in the Bobaverse books. And it's interesting as well. It's like, yeah, there's stuff you could take out of this and apply it to almost anything. Like, just because kind of the main thing it comes across is that whole idea that the general that does a lot of calculations wins, the one who does not. And the event that I had today when we were checking in all these laptops and stuff, it's like, yeah, we tried to think this through as much as we could, and we had a few little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it went really well. So, I also read Unfuck Your Intimacy by Faith G. Harper. She's also written, I think it's Unfuck Your Life, and she lives in Texas. She is very down to earth. She has no problem cursing left and right when she needs to. This one is specifically about intimacy and dating and everything else. And she definitely has some interesting ideas and stuff in there. It might almost be worth a read for like when our February book or whatever. So, the Redemption Trilogy by A.J. Sykes. It's actually 3 short books all put together. About a kind of variant version of zombies. They're not really zombies, but they're kind of like zombies. The interesting thing about that is the 3rd book actually starts off with a description of this was a series he did for Amazon's the free books that you would get on the Kindle. And when they closed down that, he actually has like 6 or 7 in the series. When they closed down that program, they're like, well, you can do whatever you want with them. And he went on and kept writing and basically took them to Audible, and that's where they are now. So I read Saturn's Monsters by Thomas K. Carpenter. That was kind of an interesting sci-fi book. I read Arkham County by Guy Adams and A.K. Benedict, and that is a book set in the Arkham horror universe, so Cthulhu and so on and so forth. That was done more like as an Audible play. So there was sound effects and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting as well. But that's what I covered. I covered a lot of books. There's one thing that drove me insane listening to these. A lot of these Audible original books have the author who is reading the book say, this is Audible, or this is an Audible original series. And I'm just like, no. I want the dude saying, We hope Audible hopes you enjoy this program. And when I don't get that, it drives me insane. I want to hear it. Like, that's the stamp of quality right there. And when it's not there, it drives me insane. But yeah. So So seriously, if you do have an Audible account and you're looking for stuff to listen to, like, just dive in. A lot of it's just okay, but I mean, it's free and they're short, and you just rip through them and keep going. So. Do what?
Especially if you're at double.
Especially at double speed. Well, that is our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen to the show. You can always check us out at epicallygeeky.com, where you can find the rest of our fine programs, like the Creatively Geeky, the Epically Geeky, and Sustainably Geeky shows. I'm going to say the other one. It's not a thing. Not anymore. Anyway, I really do need to talk to Cyrus about that. And then, of course, you can find Epically Geeky on, you can watch the show on YouTube if you want, and you can check us out on social media. Don't really post that much on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Epically Geeky. So, where can we find you online, Ray?
The Reluctant Yeti on Instagram. And I really stay away from Twitter because it is becoming even more of a cesspool.
Yep, cesspool all around. Where can we find you online, Chris?
On all the shows that you mentioned, I think we're doing a Sustainably Geeky one tomorrow. I can't remember. Anyway, and then we just did a Creatively Geeky one, which just came out. And on Instagram at Rose and Hummingbird.
Nice. Sean, where can we find you online?
This show, Epically Geeky, screwing with Wikipedia usually. Instagram, your favorite broken toy.
And as always, you can find me online at Optimachine on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.